Okay, let's go ahead and start with the comfortable seated posture. The vagaries of YouTube are very confusing for me. I don't know why sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but it's worth a try. Soften your shoulders, release your neck. Crown of your head floats up. Your arms are soft, your elbows are hanging. Soften your hips, your thighs, your knees, your lower legs, relaxing your feet. Allow the breath to be slow and gentle in the body. And again, for anyone who might be just joining us, please do sound off in the chat so I know that you're here. I left a confusing breadcrumb trail of links, and so I want to make sure that everybody found it. And Steph, if you don't mind writing to Chris if he's not here, just to see if he found the right link. Thank you. It's also good to see someone pop up in the chat just so I know that I didn't disconnect again. He sent me maybe 4 audios today, so I feel like he'll be on with us. And you're ready? Get the hands nice and warm. Hands on the top of the head, very gentle circles. Keep the shoulders soft, the chest relaxed. Both directions. Relaxing your arms down, giving them a break. And then again. "100 days of frizzy hair." That's how you know you're doing it right. Scrubbing the back of the head. And again, unless I hear from people who might be new, I'm going to assume that the folks following have had a little bit of practice with us. Warming the back of the head. I'll increase the number somewhat of repetitions and talk a little bit less. Then with the base of the hand rubbing the base of the skull, the flat of the palm rubbing the back of the neck, and down at the thumb, perhaps, or the fingertips, scrubbing that C7 point at the base of the neck. You want to warm the whole area. Sides of the neck as well. Until a sense of warmth and health radiates from the neck. Make sure that you give your shoulders a break if you need to. Eventually, every time you lift your hand, your shoulder blade will sink down the back. And your shoulders will be able to relax. Make sure you're staying nice and soft. Getting your hands nice and warm. Warmth soaking into the eyes, around the eyes, softening behind the eyes, and then ironing off 3 times. You can always do more if you feel like you're tending to deal with eye strain or you've been staring at a computer screen all day. It's so chilly here, it feels like it might be about to snow. So it's nice to warm the hands up a bit. Massaging along the side of the nose. Oh, Mel said it snowed up at Serenity, the river house. She has yet to send me photos. Softening that area and then massaging all the way up and down to the scalp line. Changing the pressure as you move so that there's always a sense of spreading and opening the face. This is especially an area that tends to compress as we frown. We want to allow all of that to open, or at least unfold a bit. And then you can massage around the eyes. Soft and gentle circles. I'm doing 36 in both directions, continuing until you feel warmth and circulation. Emphasizing the outward and soothing directions. And then with the inside of the index fingers, you can massage up and down along the midline between the eyebrows and the very end of the eyebrows itself. And then pulling open Massaging the temples, space just alongside the outer orbit of the eye. "36 small circles in both directions." I know that at least one person spending time with this is suffering from migraines who wrote to me. And this, of course, is one of those spaces that migraines tend to accumulate. So you want to allow it to remain soft and warm, both directions. And then to the jaw, softening that corner of the jaw. Especially if you tend to clench your jaw at night, please do spend extra time here. That grinding of the teeth. And there's a few points around this area that you may find tender. And perhaps if you need that extra movement in the area, spend time there until, again, it feels warm and full. We're not pushing hard, just below the surface of the skin, not trying to massage the musculature. And then along that line of the ear, continuing 36 times in both directions. And then connecting those last 2 points, as well as massaging all the way up and behind the ear with the other finger. And so again, I'm saying 36 repetitions, but really it's the number required until that sense of heat is radiating from the ears. Now we will rub the whole ear, including the space behind it. Massage the ear from the inside along the outside, especially the earlobes themselves, tugging on the ears a little bit. Then we will compress 9. I'll do 18 times, but don't cause yourself discomfort. And then tapping your fingers against the back of the head. nice and relaxed. And then again, warming the hands. I'll show you a new movement with the index fingers of one hand, rubbing that space beneath the nose, slightly curling your lips in as though you're hiding your lips so you can massage the space below the chin. And then with the other hand, across the forehead, across that space between the eyebrows, horizontal. And then full circles, emphasizing the soothing outward directions. "36 in both directions. Using the sides of the hands to soften down the sides of the neck. Loosen your jaw. Also with the fingertips. And again, at the moment, the only people that I know are practicing with us are Steph and Mel. So if you are in the room, please do write something in the chat, because otherwise I can't tell if you're here. And I'd like to be able to modify the class for the needs of each person. All the way down to the collarbone. And then pulling down to the navel. A sense of letting everything sink, softening your chest, softening your shoulders, down your back. Oh, Chris is here. Wonderful. Thank you for making it through the trail of broken links. Closing. Just for a moment, let your awareness gather in that space behind the navel. If your mind is jumping all over the place, it can be useful to wait here for just a little bit until that sense of settling, even just 1% more settled of your mind, of your emotions, of your body, your breath deepens. Really take that time. Next part, moving on to the shoulders, softening the shoulders. Easing that space beneath the collarbone at this corner up here, lung 1, lung 2, these are these points, all the way down here, in front to the pectoral. For most of these now, I'm doing 36, but do as many as you need, softening that space beneath the arm. All the way around. Make sure that as you reach up, let your shoulders soften so that your shoulder blade sinks down the back, and just let the weight of your arm pull your fingers so that you're not trying to push from the top, but rather allow this to sink and gently release the surface on the top of the shoulder. Remember that you're not trying to do a deep massage. That's a different practice. Soothe and be gentle and kind to your tissues. Softening the joint itself, and then the entire upper arm. Inside of the arm, the outside of the arm, just letting everything fall open. You might find a space that feels numb or especially cold. So spend extra time there, even if you have to do a whole another 36 repetitions in that small space to warm and nourish that. Small knuckle. And I can tell you, even though it's very chilly in here, this is the practice hall where I've been for a percentage of the morning, and it's just about to snow outside, that the practice itself warms you up. It should nourish your body so that it's easier to stay warm. There's a sense of a glow that happens, not because you're pushing qi. There's a lot of methods out there designed to try to make you push qi to the exterior to warm you up. And those are very bad for your health long-term. There's a term in Chinese medicine that refers to when the outside becomes full and the inside rots, because you've pushed all of the energy from the inside to the outside, which feels good momentarily, but in the long term is bad for your health. So please instead emphasize this gentle, nourishing quality. Soften, open the body without pushing anything around. And that has much better long-term effects and doesn't just leave you empty on the floor, coming undone. Softening all the way around the elbow. Releasing the inner and the outer gates. Softening along the heart and small intestine line. Gently grasping and circling. Not trying to push too hard. And then large intestine 4. Pay attention to this one. Find the one finger that tends to have the most difficulty circulating. You might already know it. There's going to be at least one on everybody. Even if you have good circulation, there's always going to be a finger that tends to be ignored or is the weakest, and not always the small finger. But for me, it's the small finger because I cut it off when I was a child. So now I take care of it every day. But after a lifetime of the martial arts, my hands have gone through so much trauma that I spend a lot of time caring for them now, so that as I get older, they do not remind me of my youth as best that I can. Shaking the hands. Thank you very much. Let's also do the up the outside, down the inside. Just hard enough to sink beneath the skin, the weight of the hand. Let's do 18 on both sides. Hey, Anna's here. Welcome. Up the outside, down the inside. So now we've worked our way through the upper extremities and allowing everything to sink down the front. I had a question earlier about why we choose specific points on a channel and not others. And, oh, did we skip an arm? I apologize. Let me reverse this. I apologize. Let's do the other side. I do all of these practices as part of my other practices, and so I get them confused throughout the day. Thank you, Steph, keeping me honest. That's one good reason to do them in the same order every day. Again, as a reminder, as this hand comes up, it's possible for this shoulder blade to sink. So this movement is down the back, not up toward the neck. Allowing the weight of the arm to gently release that upper shoulder. Moving around, finding any spaces that need extra nourishment in a spot that is often quite congested. Hey, you're here. Oh, glad you made it. And you know, for this individual chatting at the moment, for those of you in the future that have no idea what we're talking about, I still haven't had the chance to ask you your name, and I've hesitated to ask it on YouTube unless you're feeling private. But if you feel like sharing a name that I can call you by, I'm happy to hear it. Oh, good. Dell. Good to meet you, Dell. Working on the elbow. And Dell, during the lunch break, since you're coming in the middle, you might want to start at the beginning and then just do fewer repetitions and work your way down the body. We're doing, at the moment, more repetitions. Most of these we're doing 36 times, filling up the 90 minutes with greater repetitions. Releasing all the way down here on the arm. Lung 5 on the inside of the arm as well. Soft and comfortable. And then down toward the inner and outer gate. Gentle and soft. And then as well on this small intestine and heart line, gentle circles, grasping, circling, warming the area. Oh, good. I'm so glad. Yeah, it's nice to have you join us, Del. And then, side of the hand. Mel and I got to discover last night that Del has excellent taste in food, and so we're watching some of that. Softening all the way along large intestine 4. Wow, awesome. And then all the way off the fingers. Gentle and soft. Again, seeking that finger that is a bit less nourished than the others. And now we shake. Steph, you threw me off with your paying attention. And then we can even do a fancy back and forth movement if you'd like. Now, center of the chest. Warming and softening the sternum. Breath is deep and comfortable. And then top of the solar plexus. Gentle, especially if I know it is for some people, a very delicate space, very sensitive. And so if you press in, the body will react by tightening up. And we're trying to soothe and soften it open, nourish it. The more we try to put force into the body, the more the body puts force back and tightens up. We have less access instead of more. Both directions. And then a little below the solar plexus, above the navel, halfway between. Nourishing digestion. Softening this area that tends to accumulate emotional tension. Your hands are soft and warm. Your mind, soft and warm. And then releasing beneath the ribs. Shoulder blades soften down the back. And then, of course, raking along the ribs themselves, reaching into that intercostal space between, softening the tissue that's a little bit deeper, but you're not trying to agitate it. Notice if you have any tendency to start grabbing at your body or pushing at it in such a way that your body reacts even at a subtle level with more tension. And adjust your movement, adjust your mind and your breath so that there's this sense of subtle softness. Just in the same way that if you were going to pet a cat or something, and the cat isn't quite sure about you and you're being very gentle, you're moving the right direction, and if your mind was to drift off and you're still sort of petting the cat and you miss and you hit its ear and its eye, pretty soon you're going to be covered in scratches and you're not going to be allowed to pet the cat anymore. And it's the same reaction that we have physiologically. You want to have this gentle, loving touch. Warming the belly. Notice just my legs are soft. I'm not trying to shake on purpose. Already 6 times, both sides. Feel free to do more if you are feeling cold or stagnant in this area. And then the back. Oh, excuse me. Stomach 30. This soft line here in the inguinal crease. Emphasizing the downward motion toward the feet and to ease open this flexed point. Nice and comfortable. Circling around, keeping your shoulders comfortable, your wrists comfortable. I know that there's people of all different levels of, and I'm choppy, sorry about that. It's getting pretty windy out there. Perhaps that's affecting the signal. Oh, good, Steph. How amazing that the person in the next town is having trouble with me reaching them, and the person on the other side of the planet has no problem. What a funny time to live. Warming the lower back. You can go across the back at the level of the Mingmen. I'm doing 36 of these each time, but you can do more, especially if your back needs extra help. And you can take breaks between if your arms are getting tired. I got feedback that somebody likes to use the pause button, and I think that is a wonderful idea. This person is following a day behind us, so they can use the pause button. And now using this part of your fist to massage upward along the spine, just opposite the navel. The point there is called Mingmen. This gate of life idea. And you want to warm it and keep it warm. Eventually in Qigong and Tai Chi practice, a lot of the movement, the yang expressive movement, comes through this point. So we want it to be open and soft. And then scrubbing along the tailbone. From the top of the tailbone, you can rub all the way up to those lower back points and down to the tip of the tailbone with your fingertips. I like to put one hand on top of the other and then support that movement along the tailbone. And then rubbing just below this pelvic crest at the very top, in a way the top of the buttock, softening all along there. Some of you may find that very sensitive, in which case spend some extra time releasing that, especially with a sciatica pain. And then the sides of the hip, center of the buttock, gallbladder 30, Huan Jiao, the jumping circle. A downward direction, trying to send circulation and warmth down to the toes, constantly moving down and out with this set. Moving a little further down. Gallbladder point, again, on the side seam here of my pants. If I'm to stand and I just relax my arm, there is a point here where my fingertip, my middle finger touches. And for most people, depending on how relaxed your shoulders are and how long your arms are, that point is right where your middle finger touches. And so you want to soften that open. And then just on the top outside part of the knee, stomach 34. I'm just using this part of my hand here to warm that space. And then the same on the inside. Spleen 10, this line here, the inside corner of the knee, and also this whole cheek here. So again, I'll spread open just so you can see the position a little more easily, but you sit however you feel comfortable. With all of this, the only proper posture is the one that helps you feel open and soft and relaxed in your body. That allows movement to go through easily. I'm doing a little bit of extra in this area so that you can spread the warmth around. A couple of years ago, I had a fun knee injury that damaged this area in my knee, but I've had lots of excellent and instructive knee damage over the years. So it's nice to spend extra time with this work for me. Behind the knees, urinary bladder 40 is the point if you want to look it up. I'm moving horizontal across that crease in my knee. But if that feels uncomfortable to you or awkward, you can simply make small circles in that space between those two tendons. And that's perfectly okay too. By going across, we stimulate the tendons a little bit more, and it lets me do a bit more work on this point here with my thumbs. It's always nice to get a little extra work done while you're experiencing other points. And then let's do stomach 36. So this point here on my knee, at the base of my kneecap, if I use this distance across my knuckles, down, that's the point on the outside of the shin bone, the outside of my leg, in the very center of that muscle. That's stomach 36. And we'll simply softly, roundly rub those points. And if you'd like to, at the same time, we can combine it with a wonderful point just on the inside of the shin, the soft part there on the other side, and you can reach both at the same time. Both are worth warming. Emphasizing this downward direction toward the feet. And then gallbladder 30 point on the side, gallbladder 34 on the side of the leg, a little further out, maybe an inch out from the stomach 36 point we were just doing. It's out from stomach 36 and a little bit higher toward the knee on most people. Wonderful. So now we've warmed points all the way around the knee. So let's connect them. Gentle circles. Center of your palm circles around the kneecap. So the kneecap itself should also start to feel warm. I'm going to do 36 in both directions. But this is one of my favorite exercises, so I'd recommend doing many more throughout the day. You should notice your legs And at this point, your whole body feeling warm, comfortable. And then raking upward with your fingertips over the top of your knee. You just lean back a little bit. Let's do this 18 times. Don't hurt your back doing this. Adjust so that you're not doing something that undoes the good work you've done. Moving to the center of the calf. Oh, and I think I interrupted myself in the middle of answering a question earlier with all the fun connection issues and my own confusion. I was going to talk about how each point, even though it's on the same channel, each point has a slightly different impact on the body, functions differently, just in the same way that even in a single muscle, different points on the muscle act mechanically slightly differently. Or we may have the abdomen, and there's all different kinds of structures in there, each one with a slightly different function. And it's the same thing within the channels. The channels are simply accessing different functions in the body. If it's a movement function, or it's a circulation of the blood, or fluids, all of these qualities are described and explored through the channel system. And the points themselves touch on different functions, different aspects of those channels. For instance, when I was in school, I was hearing about a neuroscientist who was exploring an interesting point down here on the outside of the leg. The English name is eye bright. It's a gallbladder point. And by stimulating that point, which is supposed to be good for the eyes, the neuroscientist was noticing the visual center of the brain back here lighting up by stimulating the point down here. And that is described very well in the traditional Chinese medicine system, but it might not make a lot of sense to somebody who's thinking, but my eyes are way up here. And that's a lot of the wonder and the fun of studying Chinese medicine. Squeezing the calf 18 times if you'd like. You can always do more if your calves are particularly rock solid and needing of love. And then warming the ankle, spleen 6, kidney 6. You might find that 36 circles is not enough to warm the area, in which case don't worry about the numbers, just warm the area. And then massaging the bottom of the feet, sides of the feet, the top of the feet, kidney, spleen, and liver points. I've been exploring the world of traditional Chinese music. I've been putting up a little journal entry, a series of blogs that are going up on my Patreon page. And a lot of it has been so far an exploration of this tension between the people that really want, for instance, an instrument to function the way it should in theory, in pure hypothetical analysis of cosmology and numerology, versus the people who have the instrument and need to tune it so that it's in tune or that it works well within itself, even when that tuning doesn't fit the idealized semi-Platonic ideal of how the instrument should function cosmologically. And it's very interesting, this quality that we have as humans, to want to function in this purely intellectual realm. But this is how it should be. This idea is so beautiful. Like the Earth being a perfect sphere. For a long time, that was something people really idealized, this perfect sphere of a planet. But of course, our planet is a oblate spheroid. It's not perfectly round. And that is a lot of cognitive dissonance to people who have an idea. And they really need that idea to be true. And then there's the people that are actually dealing with it with their hands in it going, well, that's not how life works. And it's the same with our bodies. I want you to know why we're doing the thing we're doing. And so I may say, numerologically, the Chinese love the number 9 or 81, 36 repetitions. But we still have to know the point, why we're doing it. Not just the point as far as acupuncture point, but the reason, what we're looking for in our bodies, the change. And then you do what you have to do to help find that change. In this case, softening and warming, connecting. And so never let the rules in my instruction be a hindrance toward your actual progress. It's my soapbox. So if you want to hear me complain about that a lot, you can follow me on Patreon and listen to me read this very silly book. Pushing downward toward the toes, allowing the warmth to soak in, especially on the bottom, that kidney 1 point. Feels good. So now I get to try to reposition everything so that you can see me when I'm sitting on the ground. Pardon my moment. All right. Yeah, we'll do it. Take a sip of my tea. Black pour, delicious. So, This is the practice hall where I enjoy doing a lot of practice and training in the morning. It's dark and cold. I have the lamps lit, so there's flickering firelight, and there's a heater behind me. I turn the heater on and I sit and meditate. It's a very nice time. So let's try, similar to the way that we did this movement before, let's do the same on the legs. Avoid overstretching or overstressing any movements. I'll just make a small movement. Down the outside and back, up the inside and front. And so if you would like, you can, of course, go further and soften around the foot or just around the knee. And that's okay too, especially if you've got things in the way. Everybody's different. A reminder to avoid tightening here and trying to pull yourself in, but rather to lengthen your legs, to lengthen upward, leading with the hands, softening long. Oh, looks like there's a question. The emphasis should be on folding at the hips. So this joint here folds. And so as you fold and you soften and lengthen, that's one reason to avoid rounding. So the question was about how much rounding of the back is okay. And so you want to avoid this kind of thing. And when I talk about lengthening, part of that, what that's trying to do is to keep the back soft and to allow the hips to flex. So you soften through the hips, and then it's okay, in the same way that it's okay for your shoulders to circle around this way, for you to lengthen through your neck and your upper back. But you want to avoid trying to fold down and crunch yourself down like this. And you should find the difference in how it feels stifling in one and expanding in the other. I hope that answers the question. Let's make some circles. Circling your feet. Circling your knees. Circling that point that you're sitting on as well. If this starts to tire you out, then simply take a break. I'm doing 36 in both directions. You can shake your knees a bit as long as your knees feel comfortable extending. Circle your shoulders. And now, again, unless your hips are starting to feel tired, another variation of that, reaching out, gripping with your toes as you grip with your hands, thumbs turned down, soften, pulling, allowing the kidney chi to sink up to the back, and then lengthen upward. Softening your shoulders, falling forward. Again, flexing from the hips, not trying to do too much with the back. Raking upward the way we practiced before, and then grabbing. Let's just do this 9 times. to avoid causing anybody extra discomfort. Only as far as feels comfortable, allowing the breath to be natural. Make space in your belly for the breath. Again, only move as far as feels comfortable. And every day that feeling may be different. One more, emphasizing as you move forward the softness here. If you're not sure if you're grabbing, you can touch this point and you may feel this muscle tightening as you try to pull yourself in. And that is a very common way to hurt yourself. So instead, as you move, you simply fold as much as you're able to without forcing it or fighting yourself, and fold and fall in a way that is comfortable. And then return. And don't try to make your movement something it's not. There's no reason to try to be something that you're not. Simply move comfortably. The goal, again, is not to do the movement. The goal is to soften your body and your hips and your lower back. And so if by doing this practice you are adding tension, then you are doing the opposite of what the practice wants. And if I was there, I would hit you with the smack stick and say, stop that. Maybe. Get nice and comfortable. Softening your shoulders. Hands in the center of the chest. Turning the navel, not just twisting the chest and shoulders. Get your whole spine to circle a little bit. Your breath is comfortable into the belly, into your back. I'm doing this 36 times. But of course, if it starts to feel uncomfortable, do fewer. If it feels great, do more. And then somewhere toward the end, you let go and your body just slowly drifts to a stop. Yesterday, we included a bit of movement within the mouth. We tapped the teeth together. So let's do that again. Let's say 18 times. Touching all of your teeth together. If you have sensitive teeth or you are a little nervous about dental work that you've had done, you could also just touch your teeth together and just press your teeth, almost like you're chewing, but trying to create even pressure so that there's stimulation of the teeth and up in the roots. It's very good for your gums. And as well, what we're going to do now, kind of a funny one, we're going to drag our tongue around the base of our teeth, once on the outside in a full circle, inside at the base of the teeth in a full circle. One more time in the other direction, massaging the outside of the base of the teeth with the tongue, and then the inside of the base of the teeth with the tip of the tongue. And then gather that saliva in your mouth. We're going to swallow it down and imagine that you can feel the movement of that saliva travel all the way down to the navel. And then just a moment of quiet sitting, feeling your whole body buzz with warmth and comfort. Let your breath be effortless and slow. Let your mind come to rest in your body. And then, if you'd like, you can place your hands on your navel and feel the warmth of your hands soaking into that space, into the navel, and just behind the navel, as though it's trying to soak all the way to the lower back. Thank you very much. Are there any questions that I can answer? I can't stick around for too long today because I have a discipleship class with my instructor. We don't have Melanie here to go through the comments, so you're stuck with me. Usually takes a minute, it seems, for questions to come through, for you to receive my video, and then for the comments to come back. Chris says he's having trouble posting a question. By posting a question. Chris, I see you trying to post. Does anybody else have a question? Otherwise, I may have to wait until tomorrow. Mel is asking about movements for lower back pain. Very often, if it's from an attempt to hold yourself up straight, then the counter for that is rounding and softening forward. These kinds of gentle circles with the lower back can be very helpful if you let it go all the way up to the neck in both directions, as well as this shaking the pillar might help. But if the lower back pain is there because of compression, maybe you're sitting like this too much. And then, well, still this movement will be helpful, but emphasizing length and decompression may help. Laying on the ground. It is true, there's a really famous practice that's wonderful. I also enjoy doing it, is putting your butt against a wall and your feet in the air on the wall. Make sure that you're laying on something warm and just hanging out in this inverted posture for a while. That can be really good for lower back pain for a lot of people. And so highly recommended. One of the practices we skipped today, just because I'm running out of time, is that laying down posture. And it can be useful in that laying down posture to put something beneath your knees. And that's often a nice practice. Yeah, rounding forward or something. Steph says, when focusing on the Dantian, how small should the spot we focus on be? Oh. Be able to feel the breath or to have trouble inside. It isn't really about the size, the pinpoint accuracy of it, but once you develop the skill, I'm going to answer this sideways, and I apologize, because it's one of those things, like if you asked me, how do I feel my fingertip? How small should the point be that I focus on to feel my fingertip? But in general, you can feel your fingertip, and you can get really small, you can get big. But if you have trouble feeling your fingertip, perhaps there's some numbness, and it can be helpful to maybe feel your hand and then slowly find your way out toward your fingertip. And in that same context, it can be useful to feel your navel. And if you can, try to feel the Mingmen and the spine. And if you can feel both of those, what you start to do is let your mind move between them like a bridge. And somewhere in the middle there's a spot that feels different. It feels empty or wide. For me, it was a blank space for a long time. I used to be really good at feeling my organs, and then there's this blank space. And I didn't understand why it was blank. I thought it was a problem with myself, but what it is this vast open place for cultivation. It's why we use it. And so by setting your awareness first into that space that you can't feel, it feels strange, look for the empty place. At least that was how my body mind processed it. For some people, they put their awareness there and instantly it starts to feel warm. But for everybody, it's different. And so don't look too much for a tiny space, maybe the size of a golf ball or something like that. But you'll notice it when you find it. And so it's more about trying until you feel it, in the same way that trying until you feel your fingertip. And then you go, oh yeah, it's my fingertip. And, ooh, lots of questions. So Chris is asking if we can't reach the points on the feet, I'm guessing the kidney 1 point, for instance, or the kidney 6 point, then should we just do other points? You can do other points on the kidney channel, but you still want to be able to touch your feet. Just because it's the same channel doesn't mean that you don't want to actually reach it. In the same way that just because this is your arm, if you can't reach your hand, massaging your upper arm is good, but you still want to be able to reach your hand. And so if your body is so stiff that you can't interact with your feet at all, then it just means that a lot more practice is going to be needed so that you can soften enough until you can touch your own feet, because that's kind of a prerequisite toward basic health. But definitely do work on kidney points elsewhere in the body. The kidney channel goes all the way up. But you want to try to soften enough to start to reach your feet, but don't be forceful about it, because the more force you put into it, the harder your body will push back. So often, sitting in a bath first, for instance, may limber you up enough so that you can start to touch your own feet. But everyone's body is very different. And it may be good even just to ask a friend to rub your feet or something like that. But it's a difficult phase. You do want to be able to interact with your feet in the future. Do I have a written list of points that we're working on? No, because there's 100 or more. But you can write them down. If you go back along the videos, I say them out loud, and if you want to write them down, you can. And then you can look them up. Is there a time during the day for other depths of massage? Oh, like using a thumper. Good question. It depends if you slept or not. The thumper is very dispersing. So it's probably best to do first thing in the morning, which is to say after you've slept and you have some, because if you do it when you're exhausted and you disperse even further, it may make it harder to sleep and harder to allow your chi to sink. And so for the person who's sleeping in a traditional way, sleeping at night, awake during the day, maybe the best time for the thumper is first thing in the morning when your chi is full and you just want to break up stagnation from the night. But yeah, that's a very individualized thing. Is reflexology actually legit? I have not. So reflexology is not part of Chinese medicine. There are points on the feet, and there are systems of treating the feet, treating the ears, treating the hands that are well tested within Chinese medicine. Reflexology is something that was invented by somebody in the West, as far as I can tell, for marketing purposes. And I have not personally had any positive interactions with it, in the sense of hearing of people being treated well, having healing from pushing points on the feet that aren't associated with the actual Chinese medicine associated with it. So I'm certain that there are people that will maybe come into the comments section when I post this video later and say, this cured my something, which is great. And if that's true, that's great. But I can't. It's kind of like chiropractic for me. I haven't had any good interactions with it. In fact, I've had really bad interactions with it. But I know that there are people out there that have had good interactions. And so for me, I don't know of any good uses of it. I prefer just sticking with the points that have been tested well. And I avoid the charts and the maps that people put out because I feel like they're not very legitimate, in my experience. And what do I know? Prove me wrong, world. What are the red points on the acupuncture chart? Are these the important ones? I have no idea what you mean. I don't have any red points unless they're freckles or something like that. So it's just whatever your chart is. So you'll have to send me a picture by email or something. And if there are other questions, I hope I answered some of those okay. I have to rush off and jump into my discipleship class. I love you all very much. If you do have other questions, again, like Chris, why are there no points on the hamstrings? There are points on the hamstrings. There's an answer for that. I don't know what chart you're looking at. So I'm going to head off. And if you have other questions, you can always feel free to email them to me. Again, johnluckyblue@gmail.com. Or you can find me on the snakeandturtle.com website. And all of these videos are being posted up on Patreon. And so if you want to find me there through the website. And if there's any other way that I can help, please do let me know. I know everyone who's on here right now already knows me pretty well, so they don't have to do that. But I love all of you, even the